In the quiet town of Pont-St.Esprit, France, a chilling episode unfolded in the summer of 1951. It began innocuously enough, a bout of mysterious madness that would later be called the Pont-St.Esprit Mass Hysteria. But what followed would leave a trail of eerie, unexplained phenomena that continues to haunt those who delve into its dark history. One August morning, residents of this sleepy town began to exhibit strange and terrifying symptoms. People were seen wandering the streets in a daze, their eyes wild with fear. Some screamed uncontrollably, claiming they were being chased by invisible monsters. Others experienced hallucinations so vivid that they believed they were under attack by unseen forces. The local bakery was particularly affected. The baker's wife, who was known for her cheerful demeanor, suddenly went into a frenzy. She ran through the town square, shrieking that she could see demons in the flour she was kneading. Her husband found her inconsolable, her eyes wide and unseeing, as if trapped in a nightmarish vision. Doctors were baffled. The symptoms appeared almost overnight and spread rapidly, leaving the medical community scrambling for answers. It was initially suspected to be a mass psychogenic illness, where the stress and panic of a few can trigger widespread psychological symptoms in a population. However, this theory didn't quite fit with the physical symptoms that some were exhibiting, including severe convulsions and hallucinations that seemed too intense to be purely psychological. Rumors began to swirl around the town, fueled by the fear and confusion. Some locals believed it was a form of collective possession or supernatural retribution. The theory that gained the most traction involved the bread baked at the local bakery. It was later discovered that the flour used in the bread had been contaminated with a powerful hallucinogenic mold called ergot. This mold is known to produce substances that can induce hallucinations and convulsions. Ergot contamination had been a known problem in medieval times, leading to events like the Salem witch trials where similar symptoms were often misinterpreted as witchcraft. However, in the 20th century it was considered a relic of the past. The fact that it had re-emerged in such a dramatic way was deeply unsettling. As the town slowly recovered, the mystery of Pont-St.Esprit became a chilling reminder of how easily reality can be warped by unseen forces. The ergot contamination was traced back to a batch of imported grain, and the bakery was eventually cleared of any wrongdoing. But the events of that summer left a lingering sense of dread. Residents reported that some of the more sensitive among them still felt a lingering unease, as if the madness of those days had left a shadow over their town. To this day, Pont-St.Esprit remains haunted by the ghost of that inexplicable summer. The story serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly normalcy can unravel, leaving a lingering sense of fear and the unsettling question of what really happened when reality itself seemed to warp and twist. The summer of 1951 faded into memory, but the specter of the Pont-St.Esprit outbreak continued to loom over the town. While life eventually returned to a semblance of normalcy, some residents reported that the strange phenomena of those days had left a more lasting mark than anyone was willing to admit. Years after the incident, whispers of the town's dark summer began to surface in various forms. The local library, once a quiet place of refuge, became a repository for curious minds and morbidly intrigued visitors. Shelves filled with old newspapers and medical reports revealed chilling accounts of the bizarre events. The old bakery was repurposed, but rumors persisted that strange occurrences still plagued its new occupants. One evening, a journalist named Claire, intrigued by the unresolved mystery, decided to investigate further. Her research led her to interviews with surviving witnesses and their descendants. Many spoke of eerie residual effects, recurring nightmares, sudden fits of paranoia, and a strange, almost palpable sense of dread that would wash over them without warning. One particular interview stood out to Claire. A local woman named Isabel, who was just a child during the outbreak, described an unsettling experience that had haunted her family for decades. Isabel recalled that her mother, during the height of the hysteria, had gone to the bakery to buy bread and had never returned. While she was eventually found, disoriented and claiming to have been followed by shadowy figures, she was never quite the same. She became a recluse, speaking only of the dark presence that had infected her mind. Driven by a growing unease, Claire visited the site of the old bakery, now a nondescript cafe. She requested permission to examine the basement, which was rumored to have been sealed off for years due to strange smells and unexplained phenomena. To her surprise, the owner granted her access, stating that while she didn't believe in ghosts, she had noticed odd things: a sudden drop in temperature, inexplicable noises, and wanted to lay the rumors to rest. As Claire descended into the basement, she was struck by the oppressive air. Dust hung heavy in the air, and the walls seemed to close in. She found old, rusted equipment and bags of flour, their labels faded and worn. Among the debris, she discovered a hidden compartment behind a wall. Inside was an old ledger and several peculiar jars, their contents a murky, unidentifiable substance. The ledger, once carefully examined, revealed detailed records of flour shipments and various experiments. Claire discovered that the bakery's owner had been experimenting with different types of flour and additives. While there was no definitive evidence of malicious intent, the meticulous notes suggested an obsessive interest in altering the flour's properties. The jars contained remnants of the same mysterious substance Claire had read about in her research, traces of ergot, the very mold that had caused the madness in 1951. The find was unsettling. It appeared that the contamination wasn't an accident, but perhaps a result of deliberate experimentation gone awry. The possibility that the bakery owner might have been trying to create a new kind of flour, unaware of the risks, added a sinister twist to the tale. Claire published her findings, but the story was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a fascinating glimpse into a dark chapter of history, while others dismissed it as sensationalism. Despite this, the eerie allure of Pont-St.Esprit remained. Even today, the town occasionally experiences unexplained phenomena. Locals and visitors alike report feelings of being watched, sudden cold spots, and brief but intense feelings of paranoia. The old bakery, now a cafe, is rumored to be the site of ghostly apparitions and strange, inexplicable disturbances. The mystery of Pont-St-Esprit serves as a chilling reminder of how history's darkest moments can linger long after the events themselves. The line between reality and the supernatural becomes blurred, leaving behind whispers of what might still be lurking in the shadows. Claire's article stirred up more than just curiosity. It reignited interest in the eerie events that had once been buried in the annals of history. The cafe owner, now feeling the weight of her establishment's dark past, decided to close it for renovations, hoping to rid the place of its troubling history. As the renovation work began, strange occurrences became more frequent. Workers reported objects moving on their own, chilling drafts in warm rooms, and strange, whispered voices that seemed to come from nowhere. One worker, a seasoned carpenter named Jean-Luc, claimed he saw shadowy figures flitting through the corners of his vision, disappearing as soon as he turned to look. Jean-Luc, a man of science and skepticism, was unnerved by these experiences. Determined to find a rational explanation, he set up cameras throughout the building, hoping to catch evidence of pranks or structural issues that might account for the disturbances. What he captured, however, was far more unsettling. The footage showed objects seemingly levitating, lights flickering erratically, and unexplained shapes moving through the rooms. In one particularly disturbing clip, a shadowy figure appeared to emerge from the basement, its form undulating as if it were part of the darkness itself. The figure seemed to hover for a moment before disappearing into the walls. Jean-Luc, shaken by what he had seen, reached out to Claire, who returned to Pont-St-Esprit to investigate further. This time, she brought along a team of paranormal researchers, hoping to document the phenomena and get to the bottom of the unsettling disturbances. As the team set up their equipment, the atmosphere in the cafe grew heavy with anticipation. The researchers used various tools to detect electromagnetic fields, fluctuations in temperature, and other indicators of paranormal activity. They also conducted EVP, electronic voice phenomena, sessions, asking questions and capturing the responses on their audio equipment. During one of these sessions, the team asked if any spirits were present. The response was a chilling, distorted voice that seemed to say, "The darkness never leaves." The EVP recordings also captured faint, eerie whispers and what sounded like distant, anguished cries. Claire and the team decided to investigate the basement again, given its connection to the previous unsettling events. As they descended the stairs, the temperature dropped noticeably, and a sense of foreboding enveloped them. The hidden compartment that Claire had discovered remained untouched. This time, they found additional disturbing evidence. More jars containing residues similar to those found previously, and a collection of old medical records detailing symptoms of severe psychosis and hallucinations. One of the researchers, an experienced medium named Sophie, reported feeling an overwhelming sense of despair and rage emanating from the basement. She described a vision of shadowy figures surrounding her, their faces twisted in torment. Sophie claimed that these entities were not merely residual hauntings but were bound to the location by the traumatic events of the past. With their investigation concluding, Claire and her team presented their findings, suggesting that the ergot contamination might have been more than just an accident. The possibility that someone had deliberately introduced the mold into the flour, perhaps as part of a twisted experiment or a misguided attempt at something nefarious, added a dark layer to the story. Despite the evidence, many were still skeptical. The cafe, now a popular tourist attraction for those intrigued by its dark past, continued to operate with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Visitors who dared to venture into the basement reported strange sensations and occasional sightings of shadowy figures, further fueling the town's reputation as a place of mystery. The haunting of Pont-St.Esprit remained unresolved, a chilling reminder of how the past can leave behind echoes that refuse to be silenced. The town became a place where reality and the supernatural blurred, leaving an indelible mark on those who dared to explore its shadowy depths. The fascination with Pont-St.Esprit's dark legacy continued to grow, with new theories and stories circulating among locals and visitors alike. Despite the cafe's commercial success, the building remained a focal point for those drawn to its eerie history. The paranormal research team's findings had sparked renewed interest, but the question of whether the hauntings were real or a product of collective imagination persisted. In early 1952, just after the events had been thoroughly documented, a new and intriguing figure arrived in Pont-St.Esprit. Dr. Emily Dubois, a renowned historian specializing in occult and anomalous phenomena, had heard of the cafe's haunted reputation and decided to investigate. Dr. Dubois was known for her methodical approach, combining historical research with a keen interest in folklore and the supernatural. Dr. Dubois approached her investigation with a fresh perspective. She delved into the town's archives, seeking connections between the ergot contamination and any historical events that might provide further clues. Her research uncovered an old diary from a local physician who had lived in Pont-St.Esprit during the late 19th century. The diary mentioned a series of bizarre cases of madness and hallucinations among villagers, with some symptoms eerily similar to those reported in 1951. According to the diary, these earlier cases were never fully understood and were dismissed as the result of hysteria or local superstitions. Dr. Dubois theorized that there might be a recurring pattern linked to the town's soil or agricultural practices that predisposed it to unusual incidents. She also discovered old local legends about a place known as La Crypte, an underground chamber believed to be cursed. The legends spoke of an ancient ritual gone awry, resulting in the entrapment of malevolent spirits. The diary mentioned that La Crypte had been sealed off and forgotten, with only a few townsfolk aware of its existence. Driven by her findings, Dr. Dubois sought permission to explore the rumored location of La Crypte. She enlisted the help of a local historian, Lucien, who had heard tales of the crypt from his grandparents. Lucien led Dr. Dubois to a hidden entrance beneath an old, abandoned church on the outskirts of town. The entrance was concealed by overgrown vines and a heavy iron grate. With great effort, they managed to pry open the entrance and descended into the darkness below. The air in La Crypte was thick and musty, and the walls were covered in ancient symbols and inscriptions. As they explored the chamber, they found remnants of old ceremonial artifacts, candles, incense burners, and what appeared to be remnants of sacrificial tools. The atmosphere was oppressive, and the temperature dropped noticeably. In the heart of the crypt, Dr. Dubois and Lucien found a central altar with markings that seemed to correlate with the symbols in the diary. They also discovered a journal buried beneath the altar, its pages filled with disturbing accounts of rituals intended to invoke the unseen and communicate with the beyond. The final entries spoke of an experiment to harness supernatural forces for personal gain, suggesting a dark and dangerous ambition that might have gone awry. Dr. Dubois and Lucien carefully documented their findings and returned to the surface, feeling a sense of both revelation and dread. The discovery of La Crypte and the journal added a new layer to the Pont-St.Esprit mystery. It seemed that the town's haunting might be linked to a long-forgotten occult experiment, possibly connected to the strange events of 1951. The journal's final pages hinted at a hidden connection between the ancient rituals and the ergot contamination, suggesting that the rituals might have altered the local environment in ways that led to the disastrous outbreak. Dr. Dubois theorized that the contamination might have acted as a catalyst, amplifying the effects of whatever malevolent forces were already present. As the years passed, the story of Pont-St-Esprit became a dark legend, intertwining historical intrigue with supernatural mystery. The town attracted those fascinated by its eerie past, and while some dismiss it as mere folklore, others remain convinced that the crypt's ancient evils still linger beneath the surface. The haunting of Pont-St-Esprit serves as a chilling reminder of how history, the supernatural, and human folly can converge in terrifying ways, leaving a legacy that defies easy explanation. With the revelation of La Crypte and the disturbing journal, Dr. Emily Dubois's investigation into Pont-St-Esprit took on a more urgent tone. She felt a growing responsibility to uncover the full extent of the town's dark past, and to understand how it might relate to the strange phenomena that continued to plague the area. In the following months, Dr. Dubois, accompanied by Lucien and a few trusted researchers, organized a series of controlled investigations and interviews with local residents who had lived through the 1951 outbreak or had stories passed down from their families. Their goal was to piece together any remaining fragments of history and to see if they could establish a clearer link between the events of the past and the present-day hauntings. One of the more compelling stories came from an elderly woman named Marianne, who was a teenager during the 1951 outbreak. She described a recurring dream she had had since childhood. In her dream, she wandered through an endless, dark labyrinth, encountering faceless figures that seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't quite understand. In her dreams, she would always wake up at a stone altar with strange symbols, much like those found in La Crypte. Marianne's account was striking because it seemed to align with the descriptions in the journal. She mentioned that these dreams began shortly after the outbreak and continued throughout her life, suggesting a deep, possibly personal connection to the town's dark history. Intrigued, Dr. Dubois and her team decided to conduct a focused study on the psychological and supernatural aspects of the case. They invited Marianne and other residents to participate in regression therapy sessions to explore if their subconscious minds might reveal hidden memories or connections to the past. During these sessions, Marianne recounted vivid memories of a secretive group of town elders who had been obsessed with ancient rites. She described a clandestine meeting she had accidentally witnessed in her youth, where the elders spoke of harnessing dark forces and invoking spirits to gain knowledge and power. Marianne recalled seeing symbols similar to those in La Crypte being drawn on the ground, and she felt a sense of dread that the rituals were intended for something far more sinister than mere knowledge. As Dr. Dubois and her team analyzed these accounts, they began to suspect that the 1951 outbreak might have been the result of a ritual gone horribly wrong. The contamination of the flower with ergot could have acted as an unforeseen trigger, releasing or amplifying the forces that the elders had attempted to control. To further their investigation, Dr. Dubois organized a controlled séance in La Crypte, hoping to communicate with any lingering entities and gather more information. The séance was conducted with the utmost caution, and a medium named Gabriel, known for his expertise in communicating with spirits, was brought in. During the séance, the room grew unnervingly cold, and the candles flickered wildly. Gabriel reached out to the spirits, asking them to reveal their purpose and any connection to the 1951 outbreak. The atmosphere became tense, and the medium began to relay messages from the spirits, who spoke of betrayal, unfinished business, and a dark pact that had not been fully completed. One spirit, identified as a prominent elder from the historical accounts, claimed that the ritual had been intended to summon a guardian spirit that would grant the town protection and prosperity. However, the entity that had been summoned was malevolent, and the ritual's failure had led to its wrath being unleashed upon the town. The spirit warned that the forces bound by the ritual were not fully appeased and that their anger had seeped into the fabric of the town. Gabriel also relayed a cryptic message that the only way to break the cycle of torment was to complete the ritual that had been started and then destroy the remaining artifacts linked to it. The message was vague but suggested that the solution lay in confronting the darkness directly. Dr. Dubois, now deeply invested in resolving the mystery, decided to act on the spirit's advice. She and her team carefully planned a ritual to attempt to complete and then close the circle of influence. They gathered all known artifacts and remnants of the original ritual, ensuring they were prepared for any potential danger. On the night of the ritual, they performed a complex series of ceremonies, invoking protective rites to shield themselves. The atmosphere in La Crypt was charged with an eerie energy, and the sense of being watched was almost palpable. As they completed the ritual and prepared to destroy the artifacts, the temperature in the crypt dropped dramatically, and an overwhelming presence seemed to close in around them. With the final incantations completed and the artifacts burned, Dr. Dubois felt a strange calm settle over the crypt. The oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly, and the feeling of being watched diminished. The ritual's completion seemed to bring a sense of closure, although the lingering doubts remained. As weeks turned into months, the reports of paranormal activity in Pont-St.Esprit began to decline. The cafe's haunting ceased, and the town slowly returned to a sense of normalcy. Dr. Dubois and her team concluded that they had likely disrupted the malevolent forces that had been affecting the town, but they remained cautious. The story of Pont-St.Esprit became a cautionary tale of how dark ambitions and ancient rituals could have far-reaching consequences. The town moved forward with a renewed sense of peace, though the shadow of its past continued to linger in the collective memory. The investigation of Pont-St.Esprit remains one of the most intriguing cases of modern paranormal research, blending history, psychology, and the supernatural in a chilling narrative that continues to captivate those drawn to its dark allure.